can you define hunger? When I was researching it, hunger can be defined as restrictions in such areas as availability, affordability, and accessibility. These are direct causes of food insecurity throughout the world. And these are only a few of the factors that cause hunger here in America. This is why we need food banks. Most people, when they think of hunger, they think of the TV commercials of little kids and people in third world countries that are struck by famine and devastation. Now, the sad truth is, it's a subtle thing in America, but it's here. We have so many people here in this country that also need help, that go hungry. These are people that sit next to you in your classroom. These are people that are in your office when you're working. These are people that work out in your gym right next to you, but they're hungry. Now, there's a really sad statistic. More than 60% of all elementary school kids in Broward County, that's Florida, that's here in South Florida, go only having a well-balanced meal during school hours. Now, that's a breakfast and a lunch 5 days a week. The thing is, there's 7 days in a week and there's 3 meals in a day. There are programs such as the Backpack program that's been adopted by Feeding South Florida that give kids an ability to have something to eat on Saturday and Sunday, 3 meals that they can make themselves in case they don't have someone there to take care of them. Now, a direct quote from the VP of Feeding South Florida, Sari Vasky, is, now potentially those kids could go hungry without the help of food banks. Ultimately, this issue is what prompted the first need for food banks in the first place. In 1967, there's a man named John Van Hengel. Now, he was a retired businessman, had been. He decided he wanted to help volunteering. He went to a local soup kitchen in Arizona where he worked, where he lived, where he was. And it was small, and he saw that they needed food because there just wasn't enough to go all the way around, and they had to give people small portions when they knew that might be the only thing they ate that day. So what he started doing is he started going and asking local restaurants and grocery stores for help. He would go and say, can you give me the scraps that you have left? Because they're the ones that need it ultimately. You're just going to throw it out anyway. Eventually, within a small amount of time actually, Mr. Van Hengel started to see an abundance of food brought to this food bank or kitchen. He started thinking that there could be other uses for his volunteering than just a soup kitchen, and that these abundance of food was just too much. They needed somewhere to put it or else it would all go bad. So he bought a warehouse, and in that warehouse he would store the food and then distribute it. And this is kind of where we get the idea for food banking. The federal government soon began to kind of see what he was doing, and so when they saw this, they decided to provide funding. They gave him grants and other things that would help him to be able to get the food banks up and running in big cities. Thus, this also in 1976 caused for a tax reform that gave companies money and a break on their taxes if they were to donate and spend money there. This made it more advantageous for companies to do this, so they decided to. Sadly, in 1982, the funding was pulled for food banks from the government because they just decided it wasn't an endeavor they were willing to support anymore. But this didn't stop the movement of food banks. In fact, the name that Van Hengel had given to the bank was Second Harvest Food Bank. And here you would see that they just try to look for other opportunities when government funding was cut. This concept of asking and receiving was actually given after 1987, where many companies made guidelines so that they could help their stores give more to these causes of food banks. And ultimately, that's the model that we still use today here in this country. As the country began to see how it was helping to feed hungry Americans, more donations came pouring in to this idea of a food bank again. Now, many major cities had these by the 1980s. Networking expansion had slowed, and Americans were helping more. The name of the food bank was now America's Second Harvest, and it shifted from just giving a little bit to improving existing programs that they already had. This professionalism and efficiency of a food bank operations improved dramatically after they started to do this, because they were helping so much more. This resulted in a greater amount of food and grocery products going in and going out of the banks. In 1999, the name of the bank changed to America's Second Harvest from Second Harvest Food Bank, where its official mission statement had to do with helping end hunger in America. Now, the next year, the name of the bank changed again to Feeding America, and this is a corporation we all know today. We see it in Publix and on TV commercials sometimes. There are those people always handing out food. And they produce a more comprehensive and efficient charitable food banking than this country's ever seen. They're the largest food bank in the country itself. In 2008, America's Second Harvest was officially made Feeding America. And more than 200 partner agencies are included in this, and 63,000 agencies personally hand out food to people, and the number of people they feed is over 25 million people, and 9 million of those being children and 3 million being seniors, specific groups of people. Reasons like this where they help and they help and they help is why we need food banks today.